What's up, everybody? Welcome to a bonus episode of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara. Boo, boo, boo. Bonus. Des, how are you? Pew, 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 pew.
Bonus. If you go on YouTube, there's like confetti going off. There's streamers, balloons. There's not. You'll be disappointed.
There's not. You'll be really sad.
Bonus content. That's exciting.
Bonus. That's right. So we felt like we are going to be coming at you, right? The first rest day, Des and I are going to be recording hot takes on what happened at the first 4 days of the Olympic trials. Hot takes. Pew, 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 pew. We felt like we needed to, there's been a lot of running news and we felt like we needed to acknowledge it. We couldn't just pretend like all of this stuff hasn't happened.
Yeah, we get a comment every episode.
How did you not talk about X?
Like, well, it was on the weekend and we recorded last week. So right. I do feel bad about it. And then too much time goes by and you're like, well, now it's silly to talk about that.
Yeah, we're like, no, it's not even relevant. So
bonus episodes galore, I think. We had a big planning meeting on Friday and there's just so much going on. And we're like, Kara, no rest day for you. What's rest?
What's rest anyway? I'll sleep when I'm dead. Actually, I hate that quote, but
yeah, delete it from your vocabulary.
Yeah, I really hate that. So do we want to catch up on our own lives?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, what's going on with you? It sounds like you had a fun family barbecue last night.
It was fun. It made me clean my house. The in-laws came over. They got to see the dogs. Like, oh, they're so big. That's exciting for them. Yeah, and I brushed up the house. I didn't really clean it. The dog's doing something back here. It's so hot here today.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like already in the 80s. I went for my run early because it's that hot. And so the dog's like, he's got all this energy because he hasn't run. But he's in shape. So that's where I'm at. And
so do you run with him or does Ryan?
I can't. No, they're too strong for me.
Okay.
And they'll see a deer and they'll take off. And he's like, he's knocking stuff all over the place. He's like 6:15 pace is like where they're at right now. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not. So,
no, that's crazy.
Yeah, they do 6 miles. They get out the door hot. I'm like, I will catch up with you after 5 miles, and then maybe I can run some with you. But you need to run longer, or else you need to run slower for me.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. I just learned something new about you, and this isn't about what's going on currently. We'll get to that, but can we talk about your dance competition experience? I did not know you were a competitive dancer.
I thought you knew this. So when I said, I was like, you guys know. And you were like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
Set us back like 5 minutes. I'm like, we can't start yet.
All right, fine. So to be fair, and I love my dance teacher. She's still teaching and we're still in touch, which is freaking amazing. But, I grew up in northern Minnesota. I didn't grow up in New York City or anything. But I started dancing very young. And I danced all the way until I was in high school. And my teacher started a competitive dance league. And so I tried out for that and made it. And so I was doing competitions and we would do them like in Minneapolis and down in Chicago. And my sophomore year, we had qualified for nationals and I qualified for Foot Locker nationals and they like overlapped and it was like so horrible. My mom was like, you have to choose. And I remember I went in to talk to my dance teacher. I was crying. I could not stop crying. But in my gut, I knew like we had competed at some pretty big competitions before. And, I actually think we were really good, but we weren't, we weren't what you see on TV or on the TikTok thing. We weren't like that.
Oh, you don't get a doc. Okay.
Yeah, we were not getting a doc. Anyway, it was kind of clear like I was much better at running. And so it was really hard. And I had to tell my team that I was leaving and, they were actually really nice about it. One of them is still one of my closest friends today. I actually recruited her over to running.
There you go.
So, but yeah, I didn't compete after that. After my sophomore year, I didn't compete anymore. But I have always loved dancing. In another life, that's what I would have done. But also remember, I probably wasn't that good. In my mind, I was really good.
A national competition's pretty good.
Yeah.
This is a whole podcast episode. So we're going to put this in a box for now. I have a list of questions here. So many things. Today's not the day. This is not the bonus content people came for, but let it be known that this is not. We're not giving up on this topic.
Okay, great.
I have some questions. All right.
Okay.
But beyond that, what else is going on? You Father's Day a little bit.
A little
You're up in
Father's Day last
Minnesota.
night with Adam. We are on our 4th annual cousin camp, which is that all three. I have 2 sisters, and we're here with all of our kids at the same time. We started it 4 years ago, 10 days, and the kids are in heaven. They just spend all their time together. Colt, as an only child, freaking loves cousin camps. They get T-shirts made that say cousin camp. And so we started this in 2021. So this is our 4th year of doing it. And I'm a little bit sad because I'm going to miss the last half of it to go to the Olympic trials, but it's really fun to see our kids just have a blast. And as I was telling you earlier, now our kids are old enough that we don't have to watch them every second. So like last night we were up just hanging out, having fun, laughing, talking, drinking adult beverages, and the kids were down on the dock just like swimming and having fun. And like it's just like a sweet spot in life where the kids still like us, but they also can have a little autonomy now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're staying alive.
They're staying alive.
Love it.
Yeah.
Take care
It's
of
been
themselves.
really fun.
That's awesome. It looks like a great spot. I just see some green trees back there. I'm tucked away in a quiet room, but I can picture the lake and the fun. And I'm super impressed. I guess you said it was the 4th year. How long did it take for cousin camp to get merch?
Last year was the first year of merch.
So 3 years is the timeline.
3 years. So, yeah, for the listeners, it took cousin camp the 3rd year before we had the merch. So be patient with us.
Yeah. We've talked about it a lot. We've thought about it. We think it would be great. Just no one's done it for us yet. So
somebody just make us shirts and sell them for us and just give us a little kickback.
Yeah, exactly. It'll happen. I feel good about it.
It will.
We're trying. I feel like we're getting organized in a lot of different ways.
We're growing up. I think the listeners should know that we had a business meeting on Friday and we plotted out like now through basically New York Marathon, roughly. I mean, I feel like we're really growing up. We're really starting to take this seriously.
And we have great sponsors or partners lined up. I think that's going to be super fun to start rolling those out. I think they are going to help the pod grow. They're going to help us get merch going, professionalize some elements, and then hopefully that turns into more listeners and then turns into more partnerships, and then it just snowballs. So that's exciting. I think it's really exciting. Landed in a good place with that.
It's awesome. I'm really proud of us.
Me too.
Small but mighty team.
Me too. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's get to the bonus content.
Okay, so basically people have asked us questions about these things, and with the way that our schedule is and the Olympic trials coming up, we weren't going to be able to talk about these things, but we know you want to know because you're in our socials telling us you want us to talk about this stuff. So we're going to just take this little bit of time and rip through some of these hot button topics. And I guess we should start with the NCAA championships.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's brief hits on these things. I didn't watch everything super closely. I kind of caught distance results, and then I think what we're going to do is hit on stuff that was a bigger story.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's fair. Let's do that.
And then if you want to dig into any results specifically, we can.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think
it's our show. We can do whatever we want.
We can do whatever we want. I paid, obviously, this is my Achilles heel. I paid more attention to the women than the men. In the 800, I was super stoked to see Juliet Whitaker and Rasheen. Why can't I think of her last name? It's something with a W.
Willis.
Yeah.
Willis.
They went 1-2, and I just love their friendship. I just found out at Brooks PR by talking to some kids that know them that they wanted to go to college together. And that's like the coolest thing I've ever heard is that these two girls who medaled at like a U20 world championship liked each other, wanted to keep training with each other, and they run the same event. I love this story so much, and I feel like someone should be doing something with this story. It's amazing.
Yeah. Hot tip for journalists. This is an exciting one to dig into.
Dig into this. This is incredible. And that friendship, and that they both want to be the best they can be, but they know they can be better together. I just think that's awesome. So.
That's great. And I think they're so young, sophomores, right? And then also in that final was Sofia Guerrero, who I feel like has been around forever because she's been knocking heads with the pros and running really great time. She's a freshman.
She's a freshman.
Harvard.
Yeah.
Harvard made the final. finished ninth, but she'll, she's going to improve a ton. And I think of her kind of in those, with those other two, like they were always going up against each other as high schoolers. So,
and then I did feel for Rose. Is it Rose Harvey? God, I'm so bad with the college names, because she was kind of the favorite heading in, and she's the one that leads. But
Rose Michaela, LSU, correct?
Michaela Rose, right? Thank you.
That's two first names.
I made up a name. I made up a name. God, I'm good at my job. Michaela Rose, yes. But I feel like I think she could still be a factor at the trials. I just think she will benefit from someone else taking it out, and riding that train. She's obviously super fast and talented. So I think she'll really benefit from being in a race at the trials where she isn't the one that goes out and has to pull it through. I think that'll be good for her.
Right. If she can find herself in that finals where she could just tuck in.
Yeah.
And not have
just
all
be pulled a little bit instead of her pulling everyone else.
Yeah. Certainly has the talent.
And then on the men's side, I didn't pay attention as much, but I know it was a huge upset.
Did you watch the replay of that finish?
I didn't. Tell me about it.
It's crazy. It's like Dave Waddle stuff where, I mean, he didn't fall, but it's just like he's so far back and you're like, coming off the bend, he just managed so many different things. He's way out in lane 3. He ran like probably in lane 2 around the bend. And then pulls out the win.
And then wins.
Just like, oh man, this guy's coming on like a freight, maybe podium. Whoa. Like everyone just like came. It was like two different races. Like when you're watching Ryan in a triathlon and people are like just getting through the run and you're like, oh, that guy's racing.
Right.
It looked like, but these are all high end runners. So it was, you should find the video clip online, watch it.
So it was Shane Cohen from Virginia, and like I didn't really know who he was, I'll admit. And he, like a year and a half ago, he was a 153 person or something. And now he's run 144. So NCAA champion. I love a good story of like someone who believes in themselves and comes and does it. And then 1500, Maya Ramsden just dominated per usual. I'm impressed at how she has had such a long season, because she won indoor. She won outdoors last year. Then she won indoors. But in between like conference and everything, she flew over to the UK, competed at World Champs and made the final, and then flew back and won the NCAA championship. And so it's just been such a long year. So to see her, I was impressed by that.
Still, right?
Yeah, that's hard to do.
And she just went pro, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had an NIL with On, which is something we're going to talk about a little bit today. And she is joining the group out of Boulder, Dathan's group. So
On Athletic Club, which has looked pretty good for a couple
of years.
They're
all right.
Now.
They're all right.
They're doing all right. Yeah, so good company to slot in with, and I'm sure she'll keep getting better.
Yeah. I mean, she seems like the real deal for sure. And durable. Like, it's tough to stay healthy, especially when you race a lot. So
has she been selected for an Olympic team, or do we know she's from New Zealand?
Mm-hmm. I want to say yes, because she was on the world indoor team and she's the best, but I don't know for sure how their selection is. So I don't want to be wrong.
Keep an eye on that.
Yeah, but I'm sure she'll be there. And then on the men's side, it was Wascom again, Joe Wascom, who won. I guess he won. Did he win last year or 2 years ago?
I think he's won the last 2.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he won last year. He's like Mr. June. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's there, maybe he's not in the run up to it, but like June is Joe's month.
It's
Mr.
so
June.
True. Yeah.
Let's see if he can hold it to the trials.
He made the world team either last year or the year before. I think it was last year. He is just a brilliant tactician, and like he just can see it. He kind of hangs out in the back a little bit. He doesn't need to be seen. He doesn't need to press. And then he just finds where to thread the needle at the end. It's really impressive. And I agree with you. He's kind of like, he's good throughout the season, but you're not like, oh my God. You're just like, oh yeah. And Joe, I mean, I saw him at Pac-12s. And I was very impressed, actually. He ran the steeple. He was so far back. And I was like, steeple's not for everybody. Then he won. So,
right.
And then he came back and won the 15. So, I mean, he's obviously very good, but I'm interested in the way he races, which is not necessarily in the front pressing, but kind of sitting back and watching it unfold and waiting for when it's the right time, which maybe you're not going to be the fastest guy in the field, but at a championship race, guys like that are incredibly hard to beat.
Yeah, that's like super mature, savvy racing. Like know when your moment is and what matters and why do extra when you don't have to, which will help you go a long way. Okay, let's do men's 5 and 10.
Okay. Upset in the 5.
Yep.
For sure. We're going to be talking about Parker Valby because everyone keeps asking us about Parker Valby. And obviously she's incredibly exciting. So we'll be talking about her, but a different Parker, right?
Mm-hmm. Parker Wolf.
Parker Wolf.
UNC. Not typically a men's distance school. I was a little surprised by that.
I was too. But he outkicked everyone to win. And
Nico Young, Kai Robinson, Graham Blanks was in there.
I mean, all these athletes are incredible. Like Kai's was the defending champion. He's also had an NIL with on and is also going off to train with Dathan's group in Boulder. And Nico Young, who's been good for so long. I was just saying how he was like so good in high school, and then he was kind of a victim of the COVID stuff. And then he was at the trials 3 years ago. And I remember saying, like, we're going to be talking about him in the future. And then here we are. I'm like, he's one of the favorites to make the Olympic team. But he's been on fire this season, Nico Young, and like no one's been able to touch him. And I'm not like, oh no, that's not good for Nico that he got outkicked, but I thought, oh, mentally that's a little bit tough.
I'm okay with it, right? Like I feel like to me it shows that maybe he went back and just like did base training. He's not like this wasn't the big prize for the summer. He's got his eye on the next thing, and it's like I want to be super sharp for the trials.
Yeah, I like that take. That's a good take.
You know? And I think we talked about him in that indoor run and then coming back at the 10. And like, I think it's just so hard to maintain that.
Yes.
To me, I think being a little bit off your, and like, we're talking a tiny bit off your game, right?
Right.
Just the last stretch.
Right.
And
I know. And he was there, right? He was there all the way down, but good for Parker Wolf. Like I was interested in reading some of his interview stuff after, and he was like, he believes in himself and he believes in the program he's in. And it's awesome. Like that is so important to have full buy-in. I think some of the things I worry about now with the ability to transfer so quickly is that if I feel like some of the athletes, if they're not even a year in and they're like, oh, I'm not seeing the results I want. And then they just transfer. And I think running is a sport where you need to really buy into the program and it takes time. Like, sure, you could be good right away, but to really reach your potential, it takes time. And so it was cool to see someone who, like the way he was talking was like, I really believe in the program. I know what we're doing. I know what's, and I was like, oh, there are still people like that. That's cool. That are like, sign. I'm not just going to enter the portal and be gone, which obviously some people should leave. It's not the right program for them. But I feel like it's getting easier and easier to be like, I had an off season. I'm out of here.
Yeah, we can do a whole show on the NCAA portal.
Yeah, that's true. We're not doing it today.
No, not today. We might talk about the NCAA a little bit, though.
Yeah, we are. We're definitely going to talk about NCAA.
Men's 10,000. Any thoughts? Big kick to the finish, it looks
like. Big kick.
There was a fall. I didn't watch that one.
I only saw the last 500 where the fall happened and then he got up and won. And I don't even have I can't even find the results, which is driving me crazy right now.
Samuel Habton.
Where is he from?
New Mexico, a freshman.
Okay.
Victor Kiprup. Dennis Kippengetich from Oklahoma State, freshman. Okay, this is interesting. Freshman in first, third. Ernest Chariot, Texas Tech, freshman.
Yeah, wow, so what the heck?
A lot of names that are like
very young,
bumping on the radar, and we'll probably be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. It was just impressive that Samuel fell and then got up and won. Rally, and didn't fall like on lap 3 out of 25. Fell like heading into the bell lap. I mean, that's the best time to fall.
Thing, right?
It seems really hard because you get that rush of adrenaline, but I guess maybe now that I'm just thinking about it out loud, it's not the worst thing as you hear the bell.
When would you, if you had to fall in a 10,000, what lap would you want it on?
I think I would want it on lap 1.
Yeah, right.
But I'm just theorizing that maybe the adrenaline rush maybe helped him, but I don't know. I mean, the adrenaline doesn't last for a full lap, does it?
I try not to fall.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
too far out of the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so a
was
lot of names
impressive.
to keep in mind for the future. I'm sure we'll see
Yeah,
a lot
new
of
fresh
women
names,
in
new fresh
cross
young
doing amazing,
athletes.
amazing things. And then we got to go to the women's 5, the women's 10, kind of the same, somewhat of the same conversation. I don't know.
It's all about Parker Valby. I mean, this woman is incredibly talented. And one of the things I was thinking about with Parker Valby was that she's had multiple coaches at Florida.
Yeah, it's wild.
And she's, she didn't bolt, she stayed. And the success that she's had this past year it's kind of crazy.
5,000, 1452 personal best, meet record, collegiate record. I mean, just blew the field away.
And same in the 10,000 collegiate
Right.
record.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I feel like that was the expectation, though, right?
yeah.
Like she was going to go out and win whatever way she wanted to win. It was like NCAA, Parker, Valby were in 2 different leagues.
Yeah, it's
It,
interesting to see someone that dominant, right?
yeah,
I
that's
don't
pretty
remember
rare.
the last time we saw someone like that dominant. I was thinking the other day because someone tweeted about this. Maybe it was Jonathan Galt. He was like, have we seen anybody as dominant? And I thought, remember, Sally Kipyego was pretty dominant in the NCAA, but I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
many titles she won compared to Valby. But the ease in which Valby wins, right? Like she kind of runs in the pack till it's time, and then she's like, bye. And then she
Yeah.
just strides away from everyone. I mean, her stride is like huge and she just powers away.
Is she pretty
So
tall? I feel like you said
I
she's
I
pretty tall.
feel like she has to be tall, but I guess I don't know. I always assume
Mm.
everyone's tall, and then I meet him and I'm like, you are really tiny.
That's so
But
funny. I'm the opposite. I'm like, we're like the same size.
you
And
and
then I
I until we stand next to each other, and
and
I'm
then I
like,
see a photo and I'm like, oh, we're not. But I do that with everyone I interact with. I'm like, we're like the same.
everyone always thought Shalane was taller than me. I'm like, what? I'm 4 inches taller than her. So anyway, yeah. Maybe she just has a bigger personality. I don't know. But I'd always be like, no, Shalane is not taller than me. I'm way taller than Shalane. But she just assumed maybe it's just she's
She has like a
long.
presence,
Yeah. And then her
right?
presence. I guess I need to know now. How tall is Parker Valby?
Bum, 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 bum,
Dun,
bum,
dun, dun.
bum,
Wow.
bum.
It would help if I could type Parker Valby.
Oh, I thought you asked Siri or Alexa or somebody.
No, I'm typing it into my phone.
I didn't know if she has 2 first names,
Yeah.
Parker Valby, or 2 last names.
I don't know how tall she is. Parker
I don't
Valby.
know.
Yeah, they're both first and last names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
well, I don't
fun.
know
We'll
how
do a lot
tall
of
she
that.
is.
We'll find out at the trials.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
eye
see
it
her
up.
line up with everyone. So
Yeah.
she did declare the 5 and the 10,000 there, which I thought was, well, let's get into it.
Yeah, a couple things here that are worth talking about.
Yeah, so a lot of people wanted to know our thoughts on the shoes she wore. So in the 10,000, she wore Nike Vaporflies. She has an NIL with Nike. She wore Nike Vaporflies with a spike plate put on the bottom. And that caused a lot of conversation about is that fair? Does it matter? And people wanted to know our thoughts on it.
Go.
My thoughts on it are that this falls on the NCAA. The NCAA is producing the next, they are the feeder system to the professional track and field world. I mean, at least here in the United States. And I don't know why they don't have the same rules as our governing body, USATF or World Athletics. So, for instance, the shoes she wore would not be allowed at the Olympic trials. They would not be allowed at the World Championships because we have a stack height limitation in both of those, USATF and World Athletics. Well, USATF follows World Athletics rules. So there's a stack height limit on the track. So she wouldn't be able to wear those. And that doesn't mean that I think she's cheating or anything like that. I'm just saying, why is the NCAA not just have the same rules? Like their drug testing is really weak and they aren't in line with with the shoe tech rules. They don't follow safe sport guidelines. I just feel like it's a hot mess. And so when people are like accusing Parker Valby of cheating, I really don't like that because she followed, like, she didn't do anything that was against the rules. Does it get a little sticky ethically, like, or the advantage of someone else couldn't get that? I mean, I think that's a fair argument, but then again, that's why the NCAA should have rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think you checked a lot of the boxes there.
No, go in for it. You got more thoughts. Give them.
No, I think it's unfortunate that's even a question afterwards, and that lies on the NCAA, like, just clean it up. But on the flip side, I think what's strange is there's not a lot of consistency. Like, you can qualify for the trials, and maybe this is to accommodate the NCAA, but you can qualify for the trials with the super shoes, but then you can't race at the trials. Like, what is the difference between the road and the track? Like, I don't know. I think if it were up to me, I would just eliminate them altogether. And I think that would just make life simpler in general. But yeah, I think it's silly to say she's cheating. Like,
Right.
this is the rule book. This is how it works. And, I think she has more resources because of how well she's running. She's earned those. Obviously, that builds a relationship with Nike. And they're with NIL, they're going to do everything they can to make sure she's happy with them so that will connect to a long-term deal after NIL's up. So, yeah, I mean, I think if they're going to make the double easier, and I think we can all agree they made the double easier, why wouldn't you? It would be silly to not take advantage of that.
Yeah. I see how other competitors could be like, what the heck? I could never get those. And
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand how that would feel crappy. But it's not on Parker Valby. It's not even on Nike. It's on the NCAA to make sure that their footwear, that they have the rules that, like, that everybody has access to the same footwear, like the same rules that we have on the roads. I just want to make a snarky comment, which is that,
I love
which
it.
is that, okay, a 40 milliliter shoe on the track is too much of an advantage. We're not going to do that. It is too much of an advantage. But in a marathon, that's over 2 hours and 20 minutes. Oh, that's fine. That's my one little snarky comment. I just have
Make
to
it
make.
make sense. Make it make
It's
sense,
too much of an
right?
advantage in a 5 or a 10K,
Yeah,
but it's not too much of an advantage in a marathon. Like, what are we even talking about here? So anyway, that's
right.
my little snarky hot take that I just
We
had to
want
drop
to
in there.
preserve the integrity of the track.
Right, but
We don't give a
the
shit
roads
about
blow
the
it up.
red.
We need that sub 2 hour performance.
Right. This would be
Suck it.
neato. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and I think she would have won no matter what. I just think
Yeah.
she's at a different level right now than the other athletes. I mean, she runs 14:52 with no pacer. That's, the fastest time in the US this year. I guess Puryear and Kaladi both ran about 14:34, but behind that is Schweitzer and Cranny. I think Cranny ran 14:46 and Schweitzer ran 14:48. So, like, I mean, get her in a pace rapid rate. Like, she
Yeah.
deserves to be the NCAA champion. This isn't like a question about that at all. But I
No,
just
but
really, yeah,
it's
go ahead.
also a question about, like, okay, say those shoes aren't available to another athlete, but they want to double, but that they also want to do the trials. Like, is there, like, what's the advantage of, like, how you pick your schedule, how you're adding points for your team? Like, do you beat it? Like, you have to prioritize a little differently if you don't have that shoe, right? Like, I
Right.
can't do the 5 and the 10 and then come back and do really well at the trials. Like, I'm leaving points on the table for my team.
Right.
Like,
Well, look at Nico
you know,
Young only ran the 5.
right.
Right. And he had the fastest time in the NCAA by a bit in the 10,000. He didn't run
Mm-hmm.
that because he wants to make the Olympic team. Not that Parker Valby doesn't. I think she wants to make it. And I think she has a great chance. But he was like, it's too risky. And we talked about this outside of the pod, but there were people that were like, well, we like that they were able to, it made the recovery easier. And this is this is also something that grates at me a little bit. Like it's supposed to be hard.
Right.
Like it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be really hard to win the 5 and 10K double. That's why it's so rare. That's why it's so special.
It's special.
Right. And so that grates at me a little bit where I'm like, wait, what? Wait, our sport is supposed to be hard.
Well, I think that's one of the big gripes with the shoes, which we've done this a million times, but it's like, it's taken the challenge out of things that are really difficult and brought it back and be like, well, it's not that hard now. A 26.2 mile race runs like a 30K, and you can run them more often and you can run them faster. And it's like, oh, that's great, like to a degree, but it's also, it takes away, like, we're just making everything easier. And now I sound like an old grumpy adult. Like,
well, we both do.
Yeah.
And that's fine. This is our pod, dude. We can say what we want to say.
I don't know. It's like, I want things to be challenging and I want achievement to mean something. And I don't think achievement is a 4-letter word. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be like, well, that's inclusive. Yeah, like no shit.
Right.
Like some things shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like, some things should be hard and some things should be worth putting in effort. And like when you achieve them, that's why you feel good about it. And it's not for everyone. It's for people who want to work hard and hurt and suffer and pay their dues and then achieve.
Yep.
And I'm sure a lot of people will hate that, but that's okay.
Well, just to reiterate, we're not saying that we don't think Parker Valby was going to win the 5 and the 10 without the shoes. She was the class of the field. She should be NCAA champion. She is very, very good. And I think she has a great chance to make the Olympic team. So this isn't like a knock on her specifically, but it's just like, yeah, I know I sound so old, but I'm like, shit is supposed to be hard.
Yeah. Don't take the toughness out of it, right? Like we walked uphill in the
snow
both ways for the 5 and the 10.
We ran in shoes that made us slower, okay?
Yeah. No, and then like you say, it's not a Parker Valby commentary, really. It's a larger picture of like, yeah, it's supposed to be hard. And like, that's why it feels good. And that's why we look back at the results and go, man, when was the last time someone won the 5 and the 10? And we're like, I can't
even think because it's so hard to do. Yeah.
Right. So this like changes it a little bit, but through no fault of her own. And, that's on the NCAA. Like, do you want it to be difficult as it was and be meaningful in that way? Maybe they don't care. And that's fine too. But, then it's like, now it's got to fit into the context of world athletics and yada, yada.
I think that we should have an episode where we just talk about the NCAA.
I would love that.
My quick hits are get on board with drug testing, safe sport, and shoe rules, because you're just creating chaos and it makes it a much more seamless transition to the pros. But there's a lot more we can dive into there. Yeah,
we talked about a little transfer portals, NIL, yes. Paying athletes. I was at a dinner with my college coach and his wife just the other day, and we were talking about, I don't even know if I should go into it, but basically, like, if you're going to pay these athletes, then you have to create a safe workspace, or else you have to bring them all in on individual contracts, and they have to be contractors, like for the university, for the NCAA. Like, it's just messy.
It's so messy.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're not tackling all of running's problems today.
We can't save the entire world today. We can't save anything today.
We actually can't save anything.
We've saved nothing.
But I think we are going to talk a little bit about the trials. I am very excited to see Valby at the trials. I think it's going to be really exciting to see how she stacks up. But we can get into that a little bit more.
All right. Do you want to go through some races? Do you want to talk about a few more weekend? Like New York had a big meet.
Sure.
That we didn't talk about. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to just go straight to the trials?
Well, no, because we were going to talk about going pro a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
So, basically, the only thing I really wanted to talk about from New York was Eric Holt.
That's not true. You wanted to talk about Fred Curley.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking distance-wise. Yes, I definitely want to talk about Fred Curley. Let's talk about Eric Holt and pro contracts and then go into Fred.
All right. Love it.
So Eric Holt's been around for a little while now. Mm-hmm. And I think he was 4th at USA's a couple years ago when Cooper Tier won. I want to say, I'm really testing my brain right now. But like super likable guy, like doesn't have a shoe sponsor, super hard worker. And, he was saying that his girlfriend has to pay for dinner when they go out to eat because he doesn't have any money. He lives with his parents. But he ran this incredible race in New York, and he was kicking down Jake Whiteman, who is no slouch. He is the 2022 world champion. He just got fifth in that incredibly deep pre-field. Yep. And he was ahead of Hobbs Kessler, who a lot of people are slotted to make the Olympic team for the US. So awesome race out of him. And it just makes me wonder, why can't this guy get a contract?
Yeah, I think it's a totally fair question. And I think a lot of folks out of the gates were like, well, it's because he's older, so many contracts are potential, which is pretty true. Mm-hmm. So there's something to that. I think I kind of commented on your Twitter post that I think a lot of brands will push athletes to the group now. Like that's sort of the like, hey, we got a team here. Here's Seattle base. You can go to Michigan, and those are your options. And if you don't want to get up and move, we can't. We just don't have the money to sign you. And so I think that really limits things. And I think that there's probably another model out there that could be worked out that would help athletes like Eric, where it's like, dude's an adult. He's obviously got a training system that's working for him. He's figured it out. So like, why take him out of a situation that's made him run this incredible result? Like, can't you support people like this in a different way? So I don't know. I think that can be developed.
Yeah, he was saying his dream is a shoe sponsorship, and I was like, dude, think bigger.
Right.
You don't need the shoe sponsorship. Of course, it would be nice. We all want your bills taken care of, and I want him to get a shoe contract really bad. But I'm also just like, think bigger. Get yourself on a team. Like, you're good. Yeah. You're gritty. You've been out here with no love and no, he's one of those just grinders. And, it was cool to see him actually get some attention and love. And I don't know. He seems like a cool guy. He could be the worst, but he seems cool.
Well, yeah. And if you listen to his interviews, close your eyes and put it on and listen to it. And then ask yourself, am I listening to Eric Holt or John C. Reilly? You won't even know. So he could fall back into acting.
That's his second path. If this whole running thing doesn't work out.
Yeah, I would also like to know, who he's working with. Who's his agent? Does he have someone like going out and knocking on doors, or is it like, I don't know, asked around, no one's reached out to me? Like, what does that look like? Which I think is another kind of topic from the NCAA stuff and this. It's like a lot of young kids right now are figuring out that next move, and they're signing with agents, or they're signing with their dad as their agent, whatever it is. Like they're doing all this interview process, and then they're going to go from there and sign with the brand. And I guess I have a few things, but I want to ask you, like, what advice would you give them through that process?
Well, I was going to ask you. So, when I came out of college, nobody asked to be my agent or anything like that. It was like high school all over again, where I had to sell myself. And so, Nike invited me out, but I didn't have an agent or anything. And then I got an offer from a few different companies, and then I ended up going with the Nike contract because it was the best. And I loved Nike back then, of course, and it had such limited reductions that Mark and I were like, Mark actually wrote the contract and then gave it to Nike, and they go, sure. So nice. Looking back, I'm like, I probably could have gotten more out of the gate, but whatever. I was excited about it. It was enough to live off of and train full time. But I didn't have that process where you're like interviewing with agents, right? So Adam had an agent, and it was a bad experience, and they ended up going to court with each other. Gotcha. And then he was working with Peter Stubbs management, which was going well. But so I didn't go through the whole courting. Agents didn't court me. So I don't really totally know what that's like. I get athletes that ask me all the time, what do you think between this agent and that agent? And I'm like, I don't know. You need to maybe talk to the athletes. Are they happy? I do remember being in Europe, and we'd wrap a race and we'd go have dinner, and then I'm out on a flight the next morning, and athletes would be like calling their agent, couldn't even get a hold of their agent, didn't know where they were going, didn't know if they had a ticket anywhere. And I'm like, that you don't want to be a part of an agency that's so big that they can't take care of you either.
Yeah.
But what's your advice?
I think it's talking to as many people as possible. Talk to the agents, ask a ton of questions, talk to athletes they work with. If you know what races you're interested in, like reach out to those people who manage those races and see if they'll give you a few minutes to ask, who they work with and what they like. Yeah, and listen to people, like you don't have to just meet one person and be like, oh, this is it. This makes a lot of sense. Like ask around, you'll get some good, some bad. And then, if I think beyond that too, it's like before you sign anything, make sure you really understand what you're signing. There's a lot of clauses that it's a single word can make a huge difference in how
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're paying someone or how someone's paying you, or are you paid when the deal? Are you required to pay 15% when the deal is done, or when when the check hits your account? Like little words, and like if you can look at it, have an attorney or a lawyer look at it. I think it's worth every penny. And then again, in the process, when you get an actual deal in front of you, um, same type of thing. Like, look at the reductions and understand what that is. Like, look at the bonuses. Do they roll over? Like there's all kinds of things to look at. So again, ask a lot of questions with people who've been around, and good experiences, bad experiences. Hire a lawyer if you need to. Um, Ask your agent questions. They're there to advocate for you, not to say like, oh, well, I got you this Adidas deal, and like, well, okay, who else was like in the conversation? Nobody. Oh, like
Right.
me, you have to kind of push a little bit. And that's the thing you should even know before you sign with an agent. Like this guy only works with this brand and this brand,
Yes. You want
or
someone who can work with
a lot of
everyone.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's asking a ton of questions, um, athletes, coaches, everybody. And then the other part of that is too, like, am I going to have to uproot and move to here or there, or what does that look like? Do I have a home base? Do I want to travel around all year? Do we do altitude? Do we stay sea level? All of those things kind of factor in as well.
And I think don't feel like you have to take the offer that's given to you or join a group that makes you an offer too, right? Because not every group is for everybody, not every
Mm-hmm.
brand is for everybody. So like it's hard because you're reminded that like there's this pie and you got offered a little slice and you need to take it because otherwise someone else will take it. But if you're hoping for a long career, you don't want to start off with anything that makes you uneasy because that just gets worse. Even little things like Adam wanted to be paid by the meet and then pay his agent. He wanted the money to come to him first. And that was like a fight for many years with the agents that we worked with for us to get paid and then we'll pay you.
Mm-hmm.
But it just felt like we want to make sure that we're getting paid what we've all agreed to, right? So just little things to think about. And yeah, but don't feel like just because a group that's flashy invited you, you have to go if you visit and it doesn't feel right for you.
Yeah. I do wish there were more like mature athlete options, because I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of kids
Mm-hmm.
coming out of college too. It's like, well, you don't necessarily need to be dumped into this team system that just doesn't feel right.
Right.
Right. Like you have a setup that's been working, and you can get it done on your own. You don't need someone like, all right, you got to go for your run today.
Right.
It's like, you
Right.
know, um, so that would be interesting. Anything else on that topic?
Oh, it'll just be interesting I'm interested to see how NIL and over the next few years, like if you have an NIL with a brand, does anyone actually break away from that brand when they go pro?
Ben Rosario had a great comment on that from Hoka NAZ, and he was like, look, you got to recognize that NIL deals are NIL deals, but they don't mean shit after that thing expires or
I
when you decide to
totally
go
agree.
pro. So I
Totally
guess,
agree.
again, that was really great advice. Like, you don't you don't owe anybody anything,
Nope.
and I think at the end of these contracts, folks will say, hey, it's nothing personal, it's just business, you didn't deliver XYZ or you didn't perform. Cool. So when you have the opportunity to talk to a bunch of brands, nothing personal, just
Yeah.
business, I'm going to interview with all of these brands, and that's okay. Like, don't feel bad about that.
No. And if the brand does give you pushback, that's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Because they should be the best option for you. And if they're pushing back and being like, well, we've supported you the last 2 years, that's a red flag to me. So I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I love Ben's advice because it is just a contracted deal for that time. You fulfilled your end of the contract. You don't owe them anything. It was a business transaction. But it seems like so far, and this isn't necessarily bad. Maybe the relationships are great, but it seems like so far when people have had NILs, they are signing with that brand. And that's not necessarily bad at all. I'm just saying you don't have to.
I would say the other thing is when you sign with an agent, make sure they're not saying, "Oh, like you have an NIL, great, I'll just
Go
do
with
the
that
next deal
brand.
with them," right?
Yeah.
Like, no, I like what you bring. I've already brought this to the table.
Right.
Like, what I need you to do is make sure it's the best on the market, not just do another deal where we're at. And
Totally.
I think it's an interesting thing because after your first deal with a brand, then it's kind of like, okay, like I'm going to go and work with you first and give you the option to renew. And this is the best case scenario. And I'm not going to shop around because we have a commitment, like we've had a deal. And then you can kind of work through that. If it's not good, then it's like, okay, well, now I need to shop around
Right.
to get something that's like what I think is my value. But I don't feel like that NIL to college is a deal breaker in terms of shopping around. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean,
No,
I
it
just don't
shouldn't
think
be.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our
Good
little
luck,
advice.
kids.
Good
Good luck,
luck.
kids.
Well, something else did happen at New York Grand Prix, which we were texting about,
Yeah.
which is that Fred Curley. It's a little backstory if you're not into the sprints. Fred Curley was a 400-meter runner. And in 2021, he said he was switching. He was a Nike-sponsored athlete. In 2021, he said he was switching to the 100. All my coworkers were like, this guy's crazy. He should not be doing this. He ends up making it to the Olympic final and getting a silver medal. A year later at the World Champs in Eugene, he wins. He becomes world champion in the 100. And he, rightfully so, I would assume, thought he deserved to be paid more. And he ended up leaving Nike and signing with Asics for a huge deal. I mean, I saw a figure the other day that was like 1.8 million. And he made it to did he make it to world champs last year? He did, but he was out in the rounds.
Mhm.
Just hasn't looked the same. I work with sprint analysts and they were like, his biomechanics look different. And anyway, he shows up at the New York Grand Prix. He's wearing his Asics outfit, but he's wearing Puma spikes, right?
Whoops.
So already it's like, wait, what's happening here? And then they were having problems with the blocks. And he ends up walking off and being like, I can't do this. My body's getting cold. I'm going to get injured.
He false starts.
But even then, I don't think they were going to DQ him, or at least,
Yeah. He was just like, I'm out of here.
He's like, I'm done. Like I'm getting cold. The Olympic trials are so close. I can't risk this. So he leaves. And so the reporters ask him about his spikes. Like, you're wearing Puma? And he's like, oh yeah, I left my bag at the airport. So he had his Asics speed suit, but not his spikes. And then shortly thereafter, it might have been to Chris Chavez, Asics issued a statement saying we have parted ways. Well, this is where it gets even crazier. So then Fred posts a post on his Instagram, and it's 3 pictures of him in Nike gear, 3 different pictures. And it was, I wish I would have screenshot it so bad. And it was some quote about like the ultimate being humbled. And I read into it. I totally read into it. And this is my own interpretation, which was like, those shoes work for him. The ASIC shoes aren't working. He has to kind of go back to Nike with his tail between his legs a little bit and be like, will you take me back? And they said, yes. That's kind of how I interpreted it. Well, then shortly after, his agent says he doesn't have a contract with anyone right now. And then all of a sudden he deletes that post.
Oh, no. That's no good.
Anyway, it just has caused a lot of gossip and a lot of like, what in the heck is going on? So I kind of hogged the whole story, but tell me your thoughts.
That's great. Man, I don't even know. I think, people are like, it's what a weird way to try and break a contract if that's what you're trying to do. Like, find a better way to do it, like hidden. I think the New York, the block situation is its own separate problem where you're like, you got to get these guys the right stuff.
What are we doing?
Right? Like, he was saying these are like elementary school kids blocks.
Well, they were like slipping and stuff.
Yeah. Like, you know how much power we're putting into this. It actually matters to the race. Like, this is sort of bush league. So if that was a problem, like that's an easy fix that should be cleaned up at a world class meet,
Right.
Immediately. And then, I think those are conversations you have before you even get to the line. Like, you shouldn't be doing anything publicly. Like, I'm going to wear a competitor's
Right.
brand to break this contract. Like, you can probably have a really good conversation with the sports marketing manager, whoever's in charge at the brand you're with, and be like, hey, this just isn't working. Like, can we figure it out? But I guess that goes back to our last conversation too. Product matters now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a thing that before you sign with anyone, you might see a number and eyes light up, but like, make sure the product works,
Well, this
because
is
you
a
don't
whole
want to be
nother
in that
game.
situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a whole nother game. So like, this is not something that I had to worry about in my career at all.
Right.
It was like, if you liked the group and you liked the vibe, like you could just go there. But now it's like everybody responds to everybody's shoes differently. Obviously, the ASIC shoe that they were building for Fred wasn't working for him. And it's like he's a sprinter. He doesn't have that much time to capitalize on who he is. He can't waste another moment in a shoe that's not working for him. I mean, we're talking about sprinting where, like the hundredth of the second matters.
Right.
It's like he can't mess around with that. And so when I was like texting with Sonia, and I was like, I really respect that he's like, I have to
Can't do it.
leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the messiness of it, but not the messiness, but like having to leave. Like that's the reality of how our sports become. And like this was in the news in distance running, even with people leaving long term teams or a contract because the shoes weren't working for them. And I actually, again, crotchety old lady, I hate that this is a factor. I'm like, I hate that you're like, I love this group. This group is perfect for me. I love the environment. The brand is going to celebrate me so much, but their shoes don't work for me, so I can't go there. I'm just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But that's the reality. And so he can't
Yeah.
waste any more time there. He has to move on. And I'm nervous for him now because it's like he's not going to race before the Olympic trials. They start this week. So
He'll be in Nike, and all his
yeah.
problems go away if he runs fast.
Well, that's true. But they're not going to sign him for anything huge because they know
Yeah.
he needs that Olympic gold. And then I don't know.
Right.
But
But then
even
he's
then
got
they're
the
like,
gold. It's like,
yeah,
why would we
they're
sign
like, we
you?
already
Right.
have it. I
It's
know. Oh.
so hard.
What do you think he's going to wear kit wise? Should we try to predict?
Well, I mean, listen, Fred, if you want a nobody asked us body
We
sprint
will make
suit,
that happen.
that'll be our first piece of merch. We can get it done.
We'll do it, Fred. We got you.
Yeah, and we'll let you run in whatever spikes you want.
Whatever
The
you
pay's
want.
not great, but we can rally for that speed suit. I'm sure he listens, so
I'm sure
I'll
he listens
keep
to
my
nobody
emails
asked us.
open.
Yeah. I'm sure he knows who we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bummer that it's a part of the process now, but the flip side of it is this. I think having brands put money into R&D and like invest in the tip of the spear and like the high end of the sport isn't the worst thing. If you can get them to do it, right? Like, cuz it's like there's a tipping point. Like, we have these athletes, we're spending on professional programs, but if we're not giving them the right equipment, then why bother?
Right.
So like, every brand's got to ask themselves, like, do we keep doing that but then invest more, or do we just stop investing in pro athletes? And it seems like right now you have to have a carbon fiber, high end racing shoe on the roads. It seems like the spikes, or people are getting into it. So it's making people put money into track and field and distance running, road running, whatever, which isn't the worst thing. So that'll be my less crotchety old woman take.
I like that. Cheers to
back.
that. Positivity.
Yay.
All right. Well, now what? The Olympic trials?
Yeah. Let's do it. You have all the notes.
I have none of the notes.
What are you excited about? Let's just go with that.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm more excited than I was a week ago about the women's 5,000 because Cranny and Schweitzer got the standard. So now I'm like, okay, we got a real race on our hands. We have multiple women that have it now. Like, I'm excited about that. Let's just go through. Okay, should we just go from the 8 up?
Yeah.
By the way, we missed the steeple in the NCAA, but we'll cover it now. I just thought of it.
Killing me.
The women's 800 is going to be crazy.
It is, yeah.
There's so many good, like America is so deep in the 800.
And it's a question mark too, because we haven't seen a thing Mo at all this year, really.
Right. No, we
And
haven't seen her.
If she's on, like,
bye.
Best in the world.
Yes.
But we don't know.
We have no idea.
Right.
Yeah. I can't imagine her not making the team, but I don't know how injured she is. I know she had a hamstring injury. I don't know how much time she missed or how sensitive it still is. So,
can she handle, like, not winning?
I mean, she can handle it. She doesn't like it.
Like, but I don't know. Like, can she actually? Like, we watched her at Milrose a couple years. She's like, I'm gonna do the 15, whatever. It's out of her range, and it was like it got away from her. She just stepped off. You know, like, she's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. Like, I don't like.
I think with her contract and all that stuff on the line, she can't have that mindset. It's like, if you can get on the team, you get on that team, and then you sharpen up or heal up over the next 6 weeks or whatever. It's just really hard for me to imagine that at her worst, she can't still be a factor. You know what I mean? Like, she's just so good. I mean, she is literally the best in the world.
She's just a different
she's
level.
the one that people have talked about maybe finally taking down that world record. She has American record. She's the reigning Olympic champion. So I just think,
she's going to get it done.
Yeah, she'll get it done. But there's so many great women that are running well in the 800. So it's not a given for anybody, including Athing Mu. She's the most decorated, obviously, because she's the best to ever do it from the United States. But there's such a deep field this year. I do think it goes in spurts. Like, Athing Mu won the Olympics, and Raven Rogers won a medal. And so then it, like, inspires everybody. Like, they start running that event. And maybe you could even take it back further to Alicia Montano, or even to when Raven and Ajay got second and third at World Champs in 2019. But it's interesting how, like, the success grows more success in that event, because it makes it feel,
right?
And it's like, well, I can do that. She can do that. I can do that. And so I feel like it's interesting. You see it in the events. And I think we're seeing that in the 1500 as well, of like, well, she's can get a medal, or she's running under 4. Well, I can do that, So both of those events, I think, are crazy deep.
Healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Nia Akins is a really great example of that, because I think last year she won indoors, was really coming along well, but she made her first world team.
She won outdoors.
Yeah, and it was like,
and she made the final at World Champs.
She got to the World Championships. It wasn't like, I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 800-meter women from the USA make the final.
Right.
And I'm here to try and do that and a little bit more, And so I think you saw that play out really well with her story. And I think she'll be better this year. I think she's going to be better going into the trials. And if she makes that team, it's like, all right, I was like 6th last year. What do I need to do to medal?
Yeah, totally. So. Yeah, that field is just so deep. Obviously, there's like 3 or 4 college women that could be a factor.
Collegiates are always the wild card, because they're like so sharp right now. They're in championship season, but they're tired, a little bit tired.
Right. So you never know.
You never know.
Yeah. I mean, Sage Herta-Clucker has looked really good in that event.
Yeah, she won in New York, didn't she?
Yeah. She hasn't necessarily run the fast time yet this year, but she's been competitive. And so it just makes me think, like, if there's someone out front pushing, she'll be able to run faster. But that event will be really interesting. On the men's side, I feel like this is Bryce Hoppel's year to get on the podium.
It really is.
I feel like he has done the work. He switched up his training. He took it personally when Lewis Johnson was like, why do the 800-meter Americans not good? Yeah, he like took it like, I will take that on. And so I really feel like this is his year to go in and come home with a medal. So, I mean, the scary thing is he has to get through the trials, and it's not like the rest of the American men suck.
Sitting back and letting
they're not going, go ahead, Bryce.
Go ahead, Bryce. Yeah. I do want to take a moment and just pour a little out. He's not dead, but pour a little out for Donovan Brazier. Poor kid. So talented. So good. I wanted him on a team.
So talented.
World champion.
His first world championships, right? Yeah. Like he set the American record there, and he won by so much. So if you don't know, Donovan Brazier was an incredible high school talent. Then he went to Texas A&M, broke the collegiate record. I don't know if it still stands or not, but I was just at the Brooks PR meet. He has the record there. And I think he went pro after only a couple of years at Texas A&M, which was the right choice. And then at his first senior world outdoor championship in 2019, he wins the world championship and breaks the American record, which had stood for so long. Yeah. And he's just struggled since then. He's had so many injuries, and I don't even know what's gone on with him in the last year. He was in a training group. He was in what's now Union Athletic Club. And he decided to leave that club, which made sense. Like, you're injured for so long. It's like, it's time to like try something new, but we haven't seen him. We haven't heard from him. And so it's a story that sucks because he was obviously so talented. But sometimes I'm also like, we just want more from everybody. I mean, he did win a world title, you know?
Like, yeah, you had that moment, and then we get excited. Like,
and then we're like, oh, we're going to dominate this. Right. US is going to dominate this. Yeah. So sometimes I'm like, okay, he's not like he's not a failure or anything. He's a world champion. But I think that all of us thought, I mean, he was so young when that happened. We thought we'd get to watch this awesome, long, rich career. And it's been super sad because he's been beat up.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to comment on that, like, I think a lot of people go in if they're younger and they're like, well, this is like the stepping stone for next time. No, like, this is your moment. Take it as your moment.
Right. You never
might not get tomorrow. And I'm going to swing this all the way to women's basketball. We texted a little bit about this where people are like, well, Caitlin Clark in 2028, which whether or not you think she should be on the team, that's beside the point. Like, you actually don't know that 2028 is going to be her moment. She might not make it there. So if you're going to the trials and you have that opportunity, just run it like
you never know what's going to happen.
Only trials ever. Because you never know.
Because you never know. I know. It is sad.
And rant.
Yeah, that's a good rant.
But a lot of great men in that field. I think Isaiah Harris has made a few teams.
Yeah, he's made the last couple teams.
Brandon Miller's with the Beast running really well. Who else do we have?
Maybe the college kids.
Yep, obviously running
could be a factor. So,
yeah, collegiates. I'm missing a big name, but once we get into
who was the world indoor team? It was Isaiah and Bryce, right? Well, it'll come to us when we hang out.
Okay,
that's how it works. 1500.
Let's go.
I mean, the women's is going to be crazy. I feel like Ellie St. Pierre is just at a whole different level. She ran 3:56 and we were disappointed. We were like, oh man, she didn't get the American record. Like, God, this is her first 15 of the year.
Tough day at the office.
3:56.00. Her entire training group is crazy. Heather McLean obviously is an Olympian from Tokyo with her. And then Emily Mackay just ran that 1:57. She got up the bronze at the indoor world champs. Nikki Hiltz got the silver at World Indoor and is just running with this air of confidence of like, no, I got this. And that's dangerous.
Well, and you ripped off 4 names right there that are just like insanely good, right?
Right.
And that's scratching the surface.
Yeah, and that's just scratching the surface. I just feel good about Nikki Hiltz. I just think they are just in the zone, and it's tough to beat when someone believes so deep. Like, you got to believe when someone just believes so deeply. And then Sinclair Johnson, who Shalane Flanagan told me she was the most talented athlete she had ever worked with.
Yeah.
And Shalane doesn't hand out compliments very much. That's like not her thing. So when she told me that was 3 years ago, she was like, she's the most talented athlete I've ever worked with. She just needs more time. So she's also been dinged up here and there. But if she's healthy and
you see those sparks of greatness from her, right?
I mean, she got 6 at World Champs in Eugene after being injured for a year. So it's like, she could definitely be a factor. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of other people as well.
That's okay. These are broad strokes. We're just getting people excited. Good races coming up. Men's 15.
Men's 15, I want is for it to come down to Nagoose and Hocker just like it did in NCAAs and they're side by side. And I've already pitched this thing to my producer where we like break down their strides because Nagoose's just gets longer and longer and Hocker's just gets faster and faster. That's what I want. I think for the fans, it would be awesome to see these two battling it out just like Hocker and Centrowitz did 3 years ago. And then that I think they should be on the Olympic team. I think they both have a shot at a medal. And then that third spot is a little bit trickier. I think Hobbs Kessler has looked really good. But he got beat by Eric Holt. So who knows? But I think he's
so
looked
young.
good.
Like it's like you give him the like, well, his future's down the line.
Right. No, he needs to pounce.
But like he's got the ability. He's looked good this year.
He's made such smart choices too. Like he went to World Indoors, which indoors is so tactical because the space
Mm-hmm.
is so small on the track and the laps are so tight. Like the track is so tight. He's made such good choices this year to be ready for the rounds and to be ready for any type of race. So I'm hoping that he knocks it out of the park. But there's so many other people. I mean, Centra was looking pretty good for a while. He
Yeah.
scratched out a pre, but he was looking
Right.
good before that,
And
like
if
coming
that's
up.
a cautious move, like, hey, I'm just making a smart decision here,
Right.
right? Then
Yeah.
that's just giving him more time. He's not recovering from a race. Like,
Yep.
okay, we're good. And yeah, I think he's as a tactician one of the best around.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah.
got a ton of experience, can get through the rounds, but he's got to stay healthy.
Right. And he's older. So he already said this is his last year of running. It's hard to stay healthy in those events for sure too, right?
Right.
It's like in the marathon, it's still hard because you still have to run the miles, but you don't have the intensity
The
that you have.
intensity will
Yeah.
break you down.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, why aren't you on the track, Des? Like, yeah, no.
All right. Women's steeple.
What a wild card race.
I agree. I cannot give you a favorite. I mean, I feel like Courtney Wayment has the experience now of being on two teams and
I
making the
just
final.
haven't heard her name this year.
I know.
Like,
She has been kind of running off events too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I literally can think of 8 women, including the
Chrissy
collegiate
Gear,
Chrissy Gear.
Allie Ostrander.
She's come back into the conversation. Maddie Borman. Like, there's so many women that are on that cusp. And the one silver lining of Emma Coburn and Courtney Frericks being out is that this really opens up a window for someone to make an Olympic team and then see themselves in that arena moving forward.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of been like, well, Emma and Courtney are gone. What are we going to fight? Who's going to get that third spot? And I hope that they both have really strong returns. But I think this is good for the next generation because Emma and Courtney can't lead this event forever. Yeah. So this is like a little trial run.
Right.
Who's going to step up and get it done?
Who
Val
wants it?
Constein's been running really well
she's
too.
Been great. I think she's got a great shot.
And then also the collegiate from, I think she goes to Notre Dame, Markovitz.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it is just wide open, and those races are really fun to watch. They're not that fun to run in, but they're really fun to watch.
Do you have steeple experience?
I have none. Okay. None. No, so the first year that the steeple was in the NCAA was my 5th year, senior year. And have I already told you this story?
No.
Oh, so Wetmore was like, you're an athlete. I've seen you do stuff in the weight room. Like, we're going to run it and you're going to set the American record and we're just going to walk away. So the very first day of steeple practice, I kept closing my eyes when I jumped over the barrier. And so at the end of practice, he goes, well, you can't be good at everything. We're not going to do this.
Off to the 10K.
He's like, never mind. Yeah. So no, I have never run a steeple.
Okay. Well, they didn't even invite me to practice. So.
Well, I mean, I feel like your height would be a disadvantage.
Billy Nelson's like, whatever.
Yeah, it's true.
That always made me mad. I'm like, shouldn't be good at this. Good for him.
No, he shouldn't be good at it, but he was great at it.
Figured it out, yeah.
And on the men's side, it's also kind of open, I feel like. Kenneth Rooks, I think, is the favorite, in my opinion. He won last year and made the final at World Champs. Hillary Bohr is always around. Always around.
Gotta be. I don't even know. I haven't looked at the entries for the men's side.
I haven't either, but I think it's like the usual suspects, like Mason Furlick and Isaac Updike, probably.
Yeah, who made the last world team?
The last world team was Kenneth Rooks, Hillary Bohr, I want to say, and who was third? Was it another collegiate athlete? I can't even remember.
The steeple has been rotating so much.
The men's is like, yeah.
No, this is okay. I think it's good. I think that like after that race is done, you just want to dump the material.
Oh yeah, right? It's like studying for an exam in college.
You need to get this year's stuff.
Yeah,
not worry about it. Yeah. So,
I mean, I have been impressed seeing Evan. Chris and I have had a little text thread about Evan Jaeger. He doesn't have to be the best he's ever been.
Right.
And I know that his career is pretty much winding down, but it would be cool to see him make the final and put in a little bit of
have a little fight there.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Because he really reinvigorated the sport or that event in the United States on the men's side, right? He got that Olympic silver in, I guess it was in Rio, and he really made U.S. pay attention to the steeple again on the men's side, which is, I think you could argue Emma Coburn did that for the women.
I agree.
So All right. 5,000.
New era for steeplers coming up.
Yeah.
5,000. Men's or women's?
Men's. Who do you think is going to make the men's? The men's have the advantage or disadvantage depending on how you look at it, but the 5K is second. So I feel like more people are going to run the men's 5K than will run the women's, because the women's 5K is before the 10. And so the people that think they have a better chance in the 10 are not running the 5. Whereas in the men's, it's like everyone from the 10 will come back. Because why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who's going to make it, but I'm going to put in a sleeper pick that no one's really talking about. But they should be thinking about Morgan Beatlescombe. Heard it here first.
That's a good one. That's a great sleeper
standard. Pick. He's, running with Hobbs and very nice track club. Those guys, they're always like on when they need to be on.
They are.
So I think he'll run really well and he'll surprise some people and people just forget about him.
Like, for sure. I
think so I hope he's healthy, because I'll be pissed if he's like, well, no, I'm not even racing.
Damn it.
Sleeping too much.
I think, we think of the usual suspects. Grant Fisher, who's back and healthy again.
Yeah.
Kincaid, who won the trials. Well, I think he won the 10,000, but he's always around. I just had Nur, who, did he win USA's last year? Abdi Nur? I think he did.
He did. You said Kincaid.
Yeah. I know I'm forgetting. Oh, Nico Young.
Right.
I just feel like it's a good, deep team. And I mean,
it'll be a great race. Like, that's going to be one of those, like, 4 to 5 people sprinting towards the line with this dream, and someone's going to grab it and someone's going to watch it slide away, and you're going to be like, oh, it's just going to be dramatic. I feel like you're going to see something very dramatic in the 5, because there's enough depth and talent there. And I think enough folks have the standard in that event that you're not worried about, like, well, I don't know, can we say they made the team or not?
Yeah,
like, you should have a group of guys that are, like, pretty locked in.
And I'm not sure if Cooper Tears entered in that or the 15, but
what would you do if you were Cooper?
I would run the 5.
I would too.
I just think he's super good in the 15, but he's more of the race needs to unfold at a fast pace. Whereas I feel like in the 5K, he can handle any pace, but he also can kick really well in the 5.
Right. So he has that 1,500 kick in the 5, right?
I would push him towards the 5, but he didn't ask me for my opinion.
Nobody asked.
What about the women's side?
You know what? It's a weird race where I'm less knowledgeable about the women, but you have to talk about Parker. I think I'm guessing Cranny's doing it.
So the big ones, the big names are, so Kaladi's not going to run it because she wants to focus on the 10.
Okay.
And so St. Pierre's doing it.
That's
so
huge.
I think it'll be very hard to beat her, whether it's a fast race, a slow race, whatever kind of race.
She wants.
It's going to be super hard to beat her. And then I think Cranny is really coming around. Schweitzer's coming around. Josette Andrews.
Okay.
Everyone has a question mark about her because she ran 14:40 something indoors, and then she did get injured, but she's been doing great. She's really fit.
Is she a gamer? Do you feel like she's a gamer?
I feel like she's ready for it.
Yeah. Like,
I feel like she's ready to be, like, I think the last couple of years it was, I feel like the last couple of years she was figuring out how to handle the stress of it, how and when to peak. In a weird way, I think it might be good that she hasn't raced.
Right. It takes the pressure target off
and you
your
can't
back.
overthink it as much, but I think she'll be up there for sure. And then of course Valby, I think this is where I can't wait to see what happens. Like, does Valby have 14:30 in her?
Right.
Or
she hasn't even really been
we
tested,
don't know.
Right?
Yeah. So I think that'll be a really interesting race, and I'm pumped that Cranny and Schweitzer got the standard because it makes it less like, well, we'll tally the points after and we'll find out if you're going to get on ranking. Solid crew of people.
I'm excited to see Cranny looking like herself. Because I feel like she went through some ups and downs, and like obviously situation changes and all of that. It's like, this is a tough year to not feel locked in.
Yes.
But it feels like the timing's right where she's now locked in and like things are humming along.
Yep.
So that'll
be good. And she's so hard to outkick, so it'll be interesting. But so St. Pierre. We'll have a good race on our hands. Yeah.
Might be the 10K or the 1,500. I'm going to double in the.
No, she's like, I'm 1 second off the American record in the 10K, and I've run sub 4, so I don't know what to do. Okay, Elise. So then we talk about the 10K, which I think is Kaladi's.
Similar characters, but
I feel like it's her race to lose a little bit. Like, she's just been so dominant this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very curious, will she take it out hard and just run away from everybody, or will she be a little bit more tactical? I feel like I mean, I don't know, but I feel like she does better when she's pressing earlier on and putting the hurt on people
I think
earlier
she
on.
does, but I just feel like she hasn't been reliable on the track. And
I
I hope
know.
she changes that. Like, she's amazing on the roads. We saw her cross country just put her nose in it and be like, I don't care who you are. I'm going with you. Um, so I want to see her put together that moment on the track. Obviously, she got the standard,
Right.
looked good doing that. So it's there, but
Mm-hmm.
championship season's
Yeah, and
different.
it's different when everyone's watching you,
Yeah.
right? Like I just said, it's her race to lose. It's different when you come in and everyone is expecting you to win. So
Right. I'm excited to see Natasha Rogers. She's
yeah,
so
she's
gritty and
opening up the
tough.
season there.
She did the marathon, debuted there. I think had a little bit of trouble coming back from that, like some injury stuff, but it sounds like she's back on track. And when she's on, she's tough. She's one of the toughest people on the track, so that'll be fun to watch her. And obviously, that Olympic spot means so much to her. You
Oh
know, she
yeah,
finished second, but didn't have the standard back in 2012,
in 2012,
which is crazy.
which is wild. I mean, that was
Yeah,
12 years ago.
right. So I don't know. That'd be a great story.
That would be awesome.
Who else do we have?
I think Schweitzer will come back for that. I think
Mm-hmm.
Valby will be a factor in that.
Mm-hmm.
I know she doesn't have the time qualifier, but she could
She
run
could run it.
31 minutes by herself, and that'll be good enough if she's in the top 3.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
think that the 5,000 team will double, or like who do you think would double?
Cranny won't.
Yeah.
I think that like Schweitzer will definitely. St. Pierre is going to double back in the 15, which is crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's so much easier when the 10's first to make these decisions, but
Right.
I
Well, and
think
that's like such
yeah,
a thing too, where if you're racing and you're like, I'm out of it, 2 laps to
right.
go,
Are
like
you
I'm in
like, what am I
fifth,
doing?
you know,
Yeah,
like no, you're racing to the line. Like
right.
don't throw in the towel because you feel like, oh, I'm gonna save myself for the rest of the season or
No.
whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
no, we don't know how
Because
like
you don't
there's
know who might pull out and decide to run a
that's
different
true.
event. Yeah,
Right.
all the way.
So
All right. Oh, and then the men's. I am dying to see what Grant Fisher does. Grant Fisher got 5th at the Olympics in the 10,000
yeah.
and 4th in Eugene World Championships, and yet he's never won a U.S. title in the event.
That's crazy. I think it's his year. Maybe
I think so
he's
too.
just
I think
not
this
like
is,
he just can't find the winning move.
and
You
he has the
know?
American record in it. So I'm excited to see what he does here. Does he win? I'm very excited. I think this is his year, like as far as his
In the
age and his peak
global,
of fitness,
yeah.
of this is the big Olympics where he has the best chance of getting a medal. But again, he has to survive the trials. But I would love to see him win just because I feel like he deserves. I mean, he doesn't deserve it
Ooh,
over anyone else, but like he is the American face of that event.
yeah.
You know, it's like Alicia Munson's never won a U.S. title. How's that possible? She has the American record in the 5 and the 10.
Indoor? Is she won
She has
indoor?
the 5 and 10 outdoor American
But she's
record.
never won, and
No,
then she's never won indoors.
I don't think
Probably
she's
had to
run
be
it.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
she
Well,
has the American record in the indoor 3, I think. And so it's like, or maybe Ellie got it back from her. It doesn't really matter, but it's just like, how does she not want to? But anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and trials wins are like a little sweeter. They're not just
Oh yeah,
U.S. championship. It's like
totally.
if you're gonna do it, if you've been waiting,
Mm-hmm.
get it done there.
There you go. All
All
right,
right.
have we talked enough on
That was a
hot
lot
takes?
for a bonus for a bonus show.
We were like, this will be like 30 minutes.
Let's wrap it up. No top fives, no
No
nothing.
top 5. This is sponsored by
Extras.
us. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. Bonus material. No bonuses on the
Yeah.
contract for us.
But thanks for tuning in, and you'll hear our hot takes of the first half of the trials
Don't
in a
miss
week.
the trials.
Don't miss
Turn
it.
them on.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. Put together your picks, and then we'll do a recap soon.
Sounds good.